Hey guys, welcome to day 10. Let's go on over and see what I've got done. Alright, and here you can see I've gotten most of the bronze and leather work done on these ladies. Did all the backpacks too. There's a couple of them that'll need some touch-ups. But I got all the bronze work on here. I really think I'm going to up the bronze color. That's a little too dark. I'm going to go with Vallejo model color air bronze to color over a lot of the bronze tubing on here to get it a little brighter. I think I will leave it bronze on the legs there, but I do need to go back and touch up with the silver with the oily steel. But yeah, that's the painting I got done today. Let's go on to our question. Alright, today's big question is what is your favorite sci-fi fantasy series or setting? Setting, I guess, is the better way to put it. And that is like asking the curator at an art museum his favorite painting. He might be able to come up with something, but there's always going to be caveats or whatever. But if I had to, here I go off camera. If I had to pick some setting that was the one I've read the most, that's going to be Tolkien. And obviously, you know, I've been reading him for ages. I used to read The Silmarillion to my wife when she was pregnant with our first and second child and knock her straight out. Whom you can hear everybody downstairs hooting and hollering, but that's part of life. It's hard to beat his depth and his mythology just because he spent so much time on it before publishing. It was just a hobby for him, and he made it as deep as he could with extensive rewrites, extensive expansion, extensive all sorts of crazy stuff. And you know, that's why fantasy series and even like 40K and the Warhammer Fantasy had so much depth to it, is because people expected that in sci-fi and fantasy because of Tolkien. I mean, he had so much stuff hiding behind every bit of his work that you expect it. You expect it to be there. I'm going to take a page from Ringo and pull some stuff that you may not know about. If you like space opera, I recommend this book. It's a standalone book. It's Glenn Cook's The Dragon Never Sleeps. Warboss, you were talking about military fiction, military fantasy. This guy, Glenn Cook, is who you need to go to. He wrote a whole series on the Black Company, which was a mercenary band that would go, it was hired out to fight. And they live in kind of a magical world. And it's really good because Glenn Cook never really tries to explain his magic in that Black Company series. But for The Dragon Never Sleeps, it's based on the far future, like the super far future, like 10,000 years after now. Not quite 40K, but you know, 10K. And humans rule the galaxy with the aid of guard ships, which are these giant behemoth ships that travel through the faster-than-light webway-esque thing. And whenever there's a disturbance or somebody's trying to muscle in or trying to usurp their power, these guard ships just show up and they obliterate things. And the guard ships are huge. I mean, they are the size of planetoids, basically. And it's just, it's amazing, his depth, his thought. I've read this book 5 or 6 times, and every time I read it, I see another layer that he put into it. And I seriously doubt he'll ever write a sequel, just because this one was so summed up and ended where there could be perpetuality, but you know, it ended really good, so I don't think there'll be any continuance. Another one, if you like sci-fi, is to read Garson Ickx. This is the first book in his Abhorsen series, and it's a book series based on a world that he built it after studying he wrote this after studying Hadrian's Wall in England, and he said, you know, well, what if that didn't just keep the Picts out of Rome? What if it kept something else out, and it wasn't built by the Romans to keep things out, but built by the people on the other side of the wall? And there's a wall. You go past the wall to like a real magical world where all magic revolves kind of around either legal magic or chartered magic, or death magic, which requires death and pain and stuff to get. It's really good, and I can't do it justice in a 2-minute spiel. But really, my favorite setting of all time, the one that in the embryonic novel that I'm building is set in, is off camera again, is the ancient world. And that's because there's so much stuff in here that happened that is just as unbelievable as stuff that happened in, space opera, or in a book where people use bells to summon the dead. And if you've ever read Thucydides or any of the great ancient writers, you can mine that stuff for things that happen in your books for days, and nobody will ever notice, and you will. And you can put stuff in your books that is believable because it really happened. It's amazing. Especially Thucydides was a general at one point, I think, and so he really understood military maneuvers and happenings and all that. And you really see the scale of the Peloponnesian War. Not only larger than you think it was, it's also smaller, which is, there were more battles all over the place, but the battles were between like 1,000 men or 2,000 men. Or in some case, when it was 10,000 men, it was a big deal. It's just, it's hard to beat reality. But anyway, I've rambled on for long enough. I will talk at you guys tomorrow. Adios. Here I come again. Oh man.